Thou who see the door art chosen. In thine exodus from thine own life, make sacrifice of who thou used to be. Forsake thy memories, forsake thine identity, to be born anew.
and good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Gray Pilled, where, the truth isn't comfortable, but it will set you free. Got a banger episode lined up for y'all tonight, but before we get started, share the episode, get it out there. Let's get some more people in the chat. Let's get some more people watching the show tonight, guys. And I have a long-awaited guest, someone I've been listening to for a very long time. Joined tonight by Mr. CRROW777. Brother, how we doing?
Good, man. Thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, man. No, it's more than a pleasure to have you. And I know Rose had she emailed me, and I'm glad I saw it in time, man, because I rarely check my email as of lately. And I know I missed you on the Occult Rejects a few months back, I think, man. You came on there one day when I was at work. I was pretty upset about it. And so I'm very excited that we were able to do this. So thank you. Thank you for coming and hanging out with us. For people who don't know who you are, man, let them know a little bit about yourself and what you've been doing, where they can find you, and all that good stuff.
Well, I'll start by telling you that I've been so heavily censored over the past 10 years that everything I do now is at CRROW777radio.com, which is a private server. All the stuff that's been deleted from YouTube and the podcast that we run, which we can't even post on YouTube very often these days, is all available there to members, along with my current solar telescope work and the 2-hour film called Shoot the Moon that has 10 awards in the world. It's got like 7 lunar waves, 1 million, I guess what people would probably call UFOs, though I don't call them aliens. Just everything is accessed there. But in 2012, I was filming, I think it was 2012, I had busted out my telescope because I'd been freelancing for corporations and the economy had just crashed again and I was done. So I quit, dusted off my scope, started working, had my family over, and just by chance we saw all these things, triangular things, flying across the surface of in between me and the moon. And so that's what got me to get cameras and get ready to film, thinking I'd never film anything. But as fate would have it, in very short order I began to film things. That very September I filmed the first known lunar wave. And then a year later, I posted that and the whole world blew up. And exactly 30 days after posting that clip, all the flat earth folks started popping off and they were all referencing my work. And it just went haywire for a long time. Eventually, I launched a podcast and that's it.
Wow. And you said how long ago was this?
2013 is when I went public.
Over a decade ago, man. And what all have you noticed since then, like kind of with your work? Like I've noticed your channel. I mean, you have many subscribers, but me and you were just talking, and you said that you're shadow banned pretty hard as well.
Well, there's a story about that if you want to hear it.
Absolutely.
So if folks are not aware, in the fall of 2017, censorship came out into the light of day. It was going on before that. But that year, I think it was, actually, I say this a lot, but Rose can't find the cover. What I remember is Wired magazine ran something about censorship, though we can't find that episode. They deleted me. Jason and I covered the false flag at the Mandalay Bay, and they deleted my channel with well over 100,000 followers. They put it back 3 weeks later with something like 25,000 less subscribers. And from that point forward, there's been an algorithm on all Google products, censoring CRROW777, Lunar Wave, or anything to do with it. If you live in a part of the world where people aren't very familiar with me and you literally search CRROW777, you'll get 0 returns. So that is the state of third-party social media applications and the reason why I run a private server. But, the censorship, to me, that's evil. God gave us the divine spark of life and free will. And for corporations to do a run around the end to censor our speech, to me, that's the epitome of evil.
Absolutely, dude. Especially the certain things that they're censoring. And for how long it's been going on now. I mean, I think most people are finally starting to wake up to that. One thing that I have noticed lately, I don't know if you've noticed the same thing, is that the mainstream is starting to they're starting to grift the whole fallen angel narrative type of thing. What do you think about all that?
Yeah, anything to divide folks, anything to muddy the waters, this whole nonsense alien agenda, people should be seeing right through it. How is it that Steven Spielberg is so conveniently pumping up the movie of the year about disclosure while the government gets ready to do disclosure? It's all just it's an agenda. It's always an agenda.
Mm-hmm.
We're in the midst of an era shift here, and the way that I frame it is for the entirety of my life, my parents' life, even my grandparents' life, all the way back to the late 1800s, we've been living in an era of service to self. It's a low vibrational kind of increasingly fallen system, which is now becoming unsustainable. The era we're going into is going to be more about service to others and truth and alignment to nature, where all truth resides. Yet we have these jackals in charge of all the big corporations and everything we need in the modern era, and they're going to fight tooth and nail to try to hold on to the power structure. But they got one foot on a banana peel, and the energies of this world are no longer going to support what they've been perpetrating.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I do remember first kind of realizing when you first wake up to what is happening, and you get into the whole conspiracy, that whole realm, and then you kind of gravitate into other things. But for me, it wasn't until I started learning, really until I started podcasting and having more conversations with people, learning more about our ancient symbolism, where it originates from, and how it's being used against us, both consciously and subconsciously. And it has been it's been programming us since we've been young, I think, and then they can use that to their advantage through, this mass hypnosis, there's many words for it. But were you like a conspiracy theorist before you saw the activity with the moon?
I was never very good at following directions and doing things just because someone told me to. And I thought I had a problem of some kind and that I was weird. But as I got older, I began to realize that this is nonsense. These systems around us are nonsense. As an example, I call it a death-based system. It's not here to ensure we have a happy life. It's not here to ensure we further ourselves. Since I've been alive, the cost of going to school has basically gone from almost free to you can't possibly afford it unless you're a gazillionaire. Mm-hmm. And in that time, the quality of what education is delivering is falling. We have young people in the world right now that cannot read an analog clock in mass. They can't read cursive writing, which means they can't read the Declaration of Independence, which, you can see where this goes.
It goes on and on.
But this death-based system, we don't even question anymore what we should absolutely not be accepting. Take a mortgage for an example. Mort, which means death. Gage, it's a death debt. But even if you work your butt off and pay off that death debt, guess what? You keep paying for the privilege of living in a home for the rest of your life, whether that debt is paid or not. And by the way, you could pay on that debt for 25 years and then miss a couple payments and they take it all away, even though you've been paying for 25 years. This is a one-sided, death-based system that exists to control the masses. It's what it is.
Yeah. The one reason that I bring up the conspiracy thing is just because I see a lot of, mainstream people taking some of these talking points that people in our communities have been, for the better part of a decade trying to get out there. And now they're kind of using it to control the narrative, it seems.
They're grasping at straws now. I saw someone sent me a clip the other day because I don't surf, I don't watch the news, I don't take part in mainstream activities. Right. Some joker on one of the news channels and it looks like he's wearing a mask because the neck's not tucked in very well. And this is what they're stooping to, just to cause controversy. And then they'll bring him on the next day and everything supposedly looks normal again. As I said, they have one foot on a banana peel and they damn well know it. But when we recall things like the Georgia Guidestones, they openly admitted what they would like the world population to be. 500 million. If they got that wish, that would mean a heck of a lot of people got to go, right? And there were cameras on that, and it magically supposedly was attacked, but they couldn't possibly catch. It's all a show. All the world is a stage. And people in positions of power, like take Napoleon, he gave us quotes that prove it. He said, history is a lie agreed upon. If he wasn't in a position to know, who would be? This is the world that we are preparing and actively beginning to demolish in service of the energy shift that comes from the sky clock above. And we are now in an upward trending ascension, no longer falling down the wheel into dark ages or iron ages or whatever you want to call it. We're now rising again, and things are going to get better, but we've got to get there. And to do that, we've got to come together. And right now, almost every source of news and mainstream is doing everything it can to divide us. And one of their favorite tools to do that is what I call the red-blue mind virus. Politics has been among the most divisive things ever devised. And until many more people than we currently have free of that mind virus, the division is going to be a problem, because it's time to come together now and kick the jackals out of town.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. You see people more divided now than ever. And they've been working up to this for a very long time. And it's finally, like, it seems like it's now just imploded on itself. You know what I mean? And as they keep, flooding our country with, illegal, people who are not, probably not the best for our society, but they've destroyed their country as well. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like a catch-22 for these people, I guess, man. It really is unfortunate.
I mean, who does things like spray toxins in the air that everyone breathes, including the animals and the fish in the ocean and all the growing things, putting strontium, aluminum, barium, all these things into there? Who does that, right? Does a human being go defecate in their own water source? And this is the kind of activity we've been watching. Right. And I think part of it is they recognize that there's an era shift. They recognize that it was coming long before many of us did. But I think they further recognize that if the world is left alone for 100 or 200 years, it'll pretty much get itself back on track. We're beginning to learn things like these GMO foods. There's starting to be evidence that after 2 or 3 generations, they revert right back to what they ever were before they were screwed with. So, it's a terrible game to watch going down, but nonetheless, we've got to deal with what we've got to deal with. And we've all got God-given rights. We've all got the divine spark of life, and we've all got free will. And we're going to have to recognize these things and start to put it to good use and start opting out of these just completely unacceptable death-based systems that we've known all our lives.
Yeah. I know you're talking about the chemtrails, man. I remember being a kid and first kind of hear, and it would make me laugh. And then you get older and you realize, like, wow, they really are poisoning us in mass.
There was no dementia to any degree before something like the 80s, and now it's almost everyone that's anywhere near 70 has signs of it. This is what's going on.
So you don't think back then people had as bad a dementia, or if
there wasn't a word for it like
really?
We had? Yeah.
Wow.
And if you look into it, you can be inside. Another thing is autism. The occurrence of autism came on with all these magical, well, I don't want to get you in trouble, with all the magical
Hey, dude, look, you can say another word for it. I don't really, to be honest with you, dude, at this point.
Yeah, I don't self-censor. I find it quite amusing when someone says pew pew, when anyone knows they're talking about a gun. So why don't they just say gun?
Well, then don't feel the need to self-censor if you don't want to.
Well, if we start talking about, jabs, that
yeah,
you will feel the heat.
Right. Yeah, that's one thing I noticed early on in Grey Pilled, talking about that, and then all the stuff that started going on over there across seas, right? That whole genocide that went on. Terrible. And talking about that, and then after that, that's why I was saying all this stuff now that's coming out. I don't know. It's just very. It's funny to me how, I don't know, you have all these end of the world theories and like the rapture, these end time prophecies, and it's like we've seen this all happen before.
Yeah, I've got news for people. The world doesn't end. It's here for a reason. And if you want to buy into these kind of give up the ghost, to give up everything because there's no word, it's not worth fighting for, you've been suckered.
Right.
There's a world here. It's here for us. We are special. We are not some magical accident that came from monkeys. We have the divine spark of life, and we have free will. And apparently there are higher spiritual beings that don't have free will like we have. These are big deals. This place is special. We are special. And we've been programmed for so long. For many of it's hard to know which way is up right now.
Yeah, and I would say we've been programmed to believe that we're not special at all, the complete opposite.
Right. We've been shown that life is almost expendable.
Oh yeah, I mean, look at the abortion rates, man.
Many things. There are open admissions to CRROW's online monitoring for someone to say something negative about a certain country. Damn. Our president just admitted a similar thing for anyone who wants to talk bad about data centers, that they're going to come give them a hard time. And these data centers, and there are thousands of them planned, at the same time they're telling us water's going to be a problem, resources are going to be a problem. Some of these data centers use up to 500 million gallons of water a day, and they want them in every state. This is the precursors or the simile to the Skynet from Terminator, right?
Yeah. Oh man, yeah. You're absolutely. It's crazy you brought up the data centers, dude. I live like out in the country, but they somehow seem to build one right across the interstate from us. And my wife one night went outside and was just like, what the hell? And dude, like, we looked at the sky from like far off to where that center was, and there was just this like fake, like almost pale light emanating in the sky. Almost like it was like the frequency was visible almost, and you could feel it. Like, I don't know what kind of big powered kind of machines that they were firing up over there, but it's a huge facility, dude. It takes up an entire it looks like half the county over there, to be honest with you. And then they're doing the same thing down on the other end, south of here.
Yeah, it looks like they want them in every state, and I would imagine it's because some states have different rules. But if you're not aware of what the flock cameras are doing, and you're not aware of the just overwhelming surveillance that's coming, these data centers are going to deploy AI, and they're going to probably get to a point where they've got drones everywhere. One of these dystopian nightmare film, kind of things. And so people have won recently. There is one town, I forget which one, where everyone who voted on that town council for the data center was just removed, voted right out of town. We've got to start making our voices heard. And when things are unacceptable, we need to let the powers that be know this is unacceptable.
Holding people accountable.
We can't just keep nodding our head and going along with things that are not right. When Covidius Minimus was going on, I refused to breathe my exhaust fumes through a mask every day, because I know that my breath is my spirit,
right,
granted to me from on high. And I was thrown out of nearly every place around here. But I let everyone know, what are you doing, man? What are you doing here? And now I think many of those people that were all in for that nonsense are reevaluating their stance they took during all that. Not to mention the number of people that aren't here anymore because of that.
Yeah, it makes you really wonder, like, they created this mass, people can call it what they want, but, virus, right? To infect. It's like, how many times have they actually done this? Being the power structure, right? These same people who have had, their I guess their reigns on society for the last couple thousand years. Death cult is what I like to call it. Because like you were saying, that they don't really value life. But yeah, it's really funny, man, when you get into talking about it with other people, that's when you start to notice like the spiritual side of it for me, right? Because like I didn't consider myself what I consider myself, a mystic now, right? I didn't consider myself that before. And it's like the more you learn, the more you experience, and even learning about like occult symbolism. And I had brought that up earlier, and a lot of these ancient myths and all this other stuff. It's not at all like really what we're taught at face value. Like it's when you learn about the esoterica hidden underneath everything, that's when, like, for me, reality started to make more sense.
There's a whole world that you have never been shown anything about. You mentioned symbols, and we go through the day and we say, oh, there's a logo, and we don't think much about it. Well, a logo is a symbol. A symbol has power. A symbol has a geometry, and it has been fairly stated that the world is run on symbols. But one of the things about a symbol is your subconscious doesn't miss the symbol, while your waking conscious may miss the symbol. And there are those in this world that are taught things like this when they're coming up with a real education. The education that we got, which has been diminishing since I was young in the 60s, is how to get along in a system, but it teaches you nothing about the system. It teaches you how to be a worker so that you're weak at the weak end. It's even in the language, all of it. This is a death-based system of control. This is bred in circuses from downtown Roman Empire, still extending into the modern era, but coming to its end. And how long it takes us to get into the better situation depends on us. We have to put up or shut up. It's that simple. We either walk the walk or we put up with nonsense longer than we should put up with nonsense.
You just got me with the whole weekend thing. Your weekend on the weekend.
Yeah, you're weak at the end. It's in the language. It's everywhere. The monetary system is a perfect example. It's not really a double entendre, but current is the currency or current in a river. And what holds the current in a river? A bank. Well, a bank holds the currency. It's all there. And the reason that works is because all truth resides in nature. There is no lie in nature. So they reference what they know works, and then they apply it to their man-made occulted schemes with a little magic spell sauce on top and maybe some social engineering or mind warping to push it along the way. But many of us have woken up to these realities now. And you said when you opened a very true thing, the truth will set you free. When I first started to really realize how bad off things were, I felt a little bit hopeless because I thought I lived in a world where there is no truth. And by fortune, by good luck, one day I recognized why was I thinking that? There's always truth. I'm surrounded by truth.
Yes.
It will always be here. Truth resides in the creation, in nature. And there is no lie in the creation, in nature. And if I look at the systems that are trying to control me, they are referencing, emulating, and leveraging those truths to their selfish ends.
And they're all anti-nature as well, right?
Sure. They don't give a fig about much, but I think part of that is because nature is so amazing that even when you really damage it, when left alone for a while, it'll fix itself back up.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's what, when I first started seeing when I first started seeing nature in this way. And that's when you say like, it's all around, the truth is around you. And it's like, yeah, dude, like you interpret, like the way we interpret these signs and these symbols as ancient as they are, you know, and they've been passed down through the generations. And
you live in truth, but most
yeah.
of us focus on lies.
Yeah. And then there's some people that will wake up and they'll fall right back into some kind of deception. You know what I mean? Like something else that's controlled on some other level, because people have to remember it's not just the Illumin ones, the Illuminati. Like we have all these different groups that broke off with their own like cultish ways and ideologies, right? There's certain rites and initiations to each different mystery school. And, you know, there's a lot of that knowledge that was universal at one time, long, long ago. Sure. And then they kind of took it and they're able to, you know, sell it in a way, right? Bundle it up for you. And then in this mysterious package and be like, hey, you know,
while they gain power,
your finger and do this.
Yeah, they own all the corporations and the money, and these became the control systems. My good friend Michael Hoffman, who co-authored King Kill 33 with James Shelby Downard, one of the most eye-opening texts that's ever been written in the modern era, shows you how this country was actually put together and the little games that they played to get there, like the skit of JFK or the skit of 9/11 or any of these skits that most of the major events of our life have been. What you begin to realize is that lies and deception at this level are never going to need to be without support. They have to spend all their time constantly servicing the illusion that they've been spinning. We don't have to do that. That's another way the truth sets you free. When you tell a lie, you have to constantly remember. When you tell the truth, you just go have lunch. You know, it's not a thing that's going to occupy your time very well. But I noticed a thing in the chats, which I feel like I should mention. To get out from under and to get into the new era is not about violence. To get into an era that is based more towards the truths of nature, you do not do things to get there like violence.
Right.
What we need to get there is to change our minds, start to do service to others, begin to get back into living with respect and decorum and acting like an adult and refusing things that should not be accepted. That's how you get into the new era, by opting out of the things you've been opting into your whole life and changing your mind. There is no place for improvement in violence. And by the way, the powers that be would absolutely love to see someone pop off with violence, because they got tools that would make short order of that from 2 states away.
Wow. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And they even have people that are intertwined in the violence at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's the tree, it's the fruit of the tree, right? How do you judge a tree? By its fruit, right?
Right.
So is the foundation of your move into the new era going to be violence? Is that the foundation you want to lay? Not going to get you very far.
Right. And I'd say, especially now, since we're dealing with AI and freaking robots and, you know, all this, you know, new technology that could spot us from a mile away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With just by like noticing a movement or something in its radar. And that's some of the stuff like what you said earlier, Terminator vibes, I guess.
Skynet. It's here. Yeah.
Skynet. Okay. Yeah. That's very surreal now, dude. Not so much 10 years ago, but now, especially like after having kids and getting a little older, like I'm only 33, Illuminati confirmed. And so, you know, I have 2 kids, and one's younger, but one's, you know, he's about to be a teenager, and I'm fortunate enough to have, gotten to where I am today to be able to teach him, you know, not completely, you know, what I would say, gray pill him or whatever, but, you know, just to let him know here or there, if he's asking questions, you know, or if he sees that something's up and he wants to know the answer, I'm not going to sit there and just say, nah, there's nothing going on there. Go watch your TV program. You know what I mean? I think we should be informing our children on what we do know to be factual and true, especially the way history is kind of repeating itself, you know. And you brought up the King Kill 33 ritual. It's like, well, when's the next one? You know, like we know these things happen, and they kind of happen in patterns or, you know, ritualistically. Right. And so, yeah, man, I don't know. Just what a time to be alive, CRROW. That's all I got to say.
That, you know, that's the view you really need to take instead of going down the hopeless despair,
Right?
Because you want it to go back to something that's never coming back. The system is too broke to fix. It's not coming back. We're not going to know normalcy as we think we once knew it ever again. What we will know is either some form of slavery for a period of time or something far better than we have ever known, in alignment with the energies of this cyclical place that exists under the sky clock, which has also been belittled. While we live here in a year and witness that the sky clock makes it 100 degrees in the summer and then freezes us solid in the winter, and we can't possibly put together with two brain cells that energies from above are causing the cyclical nature of this place. We watch the most extreme changes, and we know the sky clock is doing it, particularly the sun, and we can't possibly put together, because it's been so thoroughly defamed and made fun of, that things like astrology are for idiots. Even when we pick up a paper and we read things like millionaires don't use astrology, billionaires do. And by the way, they use holistic medicine.
And they sometimes use multiple astrologers. You know,
sure,
what I mean? Yeah.
Sure. And they probably have some of the best records into antiquity because they either stole them during a war or bought them.
Right.
Like they did in the Middle East recently, where we're coming in to protect a museum. Oh, the museum got robbed. How'd that happen?
Huh. Yeah, it's like we're kind of yeah. No, you see that a lot actually, and it's like yeah, that's the you know, the whole world is a stage thing, and these people, you know, they're all splitting the treasure, you know, back behind the scenes, and then coming out and kind of pointing fingers, and you know, somebody's the enemy and someone is,
you know, think about it though. Look at Vegas as your bellwether for what's going on. Wouldn't you imagine, with the amount of major corporations and money that goes through Vegas, that there would be people there that absolutely do not want it to change, and they want 1 million people there every year losing their money to them? And yet that's not what we see. When you cross the California state line now, that first big gambling entertainment center, it's closed on July 4th, closed. And they've openly admitted now that Vegas is only going to be for billionaires. What does it take to get every corporation in Vegas to go along with that? It's like a secret society of the upper echelons. Guess what? The common man's no longer included here. And how do you have enough billionaires to make a place like that even run at the level it was when there was millions of common men and women coming in there every year? This is the level of the takeover. We see a government and we think, oh, they don't get along with that government, and you fall for the red blue mind virus every time. There are levels above government that just pull the strings. Just pull the strings. They're all in the same clubs, like the CFR and the Club of Rome and the Grouper, the Club of 300, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of them, and they're old world families that have amassed power and control.
Yeah, it's just funny to me. Some people think that, you know, some of these families are still there that are gonna, you know, be leading the charge, right, or you know, fighting for us. It's just laughable.
It's just if you look around to watch things like Vegas, where everyone gets in line, or how about the car companies? You guys are going to make electric cars now. No one's buying them. You're losing money, but you're still going to make electric cars. You know why? Because we can control them. We can put kill switches in. We can track them. We just passed laws recently that puts a kill switch in every new car. This is the Skynet. This is
going to do it to our phones too, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is what it's time to start opting out of. And, you know, it's time to assess before you act, to consider what you're being presented with every single time new information is put before you. You're being dragged to the crossroads.
Right.
Do you go forward? Do you turn right? Do you turn left? Do you go backwards or do you sit there till you die? Well, for most of your life, you've been on autopilot and you haven't thought about which direction you're going to go. You just went a direction. Well, now it's time to recognize every bit of new information drags you to the crossroad. And if you can't make a decision, then you need to stick it in your back pocket and leave it there until you can. Because if you're autopiloted through this existence, most of the things you end up with are probably not going to be very appealing or helpful.
Right. And that's why I was speaking about the end times theories earlier, and kind of how the mainstream, what I see is how they're taking people's spirituality and they're using it against them. And, you know, if we all hope for the end of the world, then Christ will return and save us all.
Then why do we have free will?
Right.
Why would we be given free will and the divine spark of life if someone else is going to do our things for us?
Right.
Seems to me the very grant of free will should tell you that your decisions are on you. And if you don't believe you have free will, why don't you go prove it right now? Walk out to your front door and decide whether you're going to stand there, go back in the house, turn left, right, or go forward. Because after you have made that decision, you have determined that you have free will.
Absolutely. And I know you were talking about the sky clock having these energies that we correspond with. And I know you had brought some images, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know if you wanted to go ahead and getting into those.
Yeah. Why don't we show a little of the solar work, please, Rose? This is the current work that I'm doing because the sun, in my estimation, is the biggest deal in town as we do an era shift. The sun, in my view, by the way, I shot this with a 130-inch hydrogen alpha dedicated solar telescope. You're looking at the limb or the edge of the sun, and that's a solar prominence.
Incredible.
And 10, 15 years ago, an amateur like me could not have prayed to get images like this. Those are sunspots. That's a close-up of sunspots on the solar surface in the hydrogen alpha wavelength. She's inverting the image. When the sunspots are white, it's an inversion to show the 3D nature.
Wow.
On my website, these stills are available to people to get and print. Some of them print up to about 30 or 40 inches if you want to go that big. But this is a new era of amateurs being able to investigate and have views at this level. That's Rose's favorite image, that big sun.
Yeah, I was just about to say that's beautiful. And so what did you say these, like, this aura that's off of this, like, that's kind of hanging off the sun is?
So the things that look like flames on the edge of the sun is called a prominence, and that's a lot of times where they have a mass ejection. It's from that. But what you're seeing there is all over the entire face of the sun. You're just looking at it at a different angle. Like, in a minute, I'll show you. We'll get an image up here. You can see the flames on the edge there, but that's happening over a lot of the surface of the sun. It's called a filament when you're looking at it head on. And like the blacks in the corner there, that black, that's actually a prominence that you're looking at head on. You can see the prominence there going over the edge, but the angle is still extreme enough. That's a sunspot with filaments around it. And so what I do is I film, and it's the sun is the toughest thing I've ever filmed. Those are filaments inverted and not inverted in the same shot, which is equivalent to the prominence at the edge of the sun. You're just looking at a different angle. But I take roughly, on any day that I shoot, when I'm going to animate it so that it moves, I'll shoot at least 3 hours of data, which can be up to a terabyte of data. And then I put it all together. Everything there is natural except the color. I shoot in black and white for max detail, and I assign the color. But then I speed it up so that your eye can see the motion. When you're watching the sun, there are times when things happen so quickly you can see it in real time, but most of the time you need to speed it up to have a good sense of the motion. Excuse me. I had a smaller telescope back in 2014 when I filmed the so-called second sun for the first time. And if you go back and look at that older footage, it's not even in the same ballpark as this. This is such a massive step up. And when I bought this telescope, I saved for 10 years, and the Lunt guy who sold it to me said only 3 scopes of this size have been sold in North America.
So nobody else, well, 2 other people maybe had the same telescope as you.
Well, the smaller scope, if you go to a place like AstroBin and watch what all the amateurs are doing, even people with smaller rigs are now learning how to get just spectacular footage compared to about 10 years ago. The amateur astronomy, it's like a heyday now because everything's digital. Back when I started, we were using film, and it was so difficult, and you didn't get second chances using film. It's a different world. That is a looping prominence, and I've speeded it up so that you can see it.
It's beautiful.
Expanding away from the sun and looping back down. You can see the magnetic look and feel, the electromagnetic arcing.
Like it's pulling it. Yeah, yeah. Wow.
In my view, this is not a nuclear furnace. This
looks
is
like a portal, man.
Yeah, you know, I sun gaze as well. I had astigmatism that required glasses, and I recently started sun gazing again. I don't even need my glasses while I drive, and that's with astigmatism that was corrected by sun gazing. And by the way, you don't go out and stare at the sun unless you know what you're doing, because you can damage your eyes for good if you do that.
Yeah, we've talked about sun gazing before on my show, I'm pretty sure. So hold on, you mentioned the supposed second sun. You can't just mention that and not tell me.
So there's a 2-hour film on CRROW777radio.com that membership gets free access to. Last 2 awards came from India, I think Jaipur. It covers all my older lunar telescope work and everything. But at the end, I included the so-called second sun. In 2016, the SLU Observatory was running a live stream for young people showing Mercury transit the face of the sun. But there was this other sun-sized body almost kissing the sun that we're familiar with. And in the middle of it, he said, I guess you're all wondering what that is. That's our second sun. NASA knows all about it, but they don't want you to know about it. When I made a big deal out of this, there were some responses like he was joking. But you tell me, when an astronomer streaming for children as the Mercury transits makes a joke like that. I don't know for sure what it is, and it has kind of been dubbed the second sun, but the footage has been captured by more than just me, to include the SLU Observatory. And over time, hopefully we'll figure out what it is, but there is footage of it in my film, Shoot the Moon.
What would you guess this second sun would I mean,
I can guess like everyone else. I could say that the Indian Vedics astrologers had it right, and that our sun has a binary that gets closer as we go into ascending eras. Mm-hmm. Or I could maybe say it's a reflection off the firmament from outside the firmament. I don't know. I can guess all day long and I can regurgitate. Right. But what I can tell you for certain is I filmed it. I also filmed the lunar wave in front of the sun, the so-called lunar wave last season. So the lunar wave has been filmed many times in front of the moon. Last year I filmed it in front of the sun. It's been filmed in front of Jupiter, and it's been filmed in front of Saturn.
Okay. Then that was the first time that you filmed something. You were filming the lunar wave, right?
The first thing that shook up the world. I had a lot of weird object catches and other things like that.
Yeah. You said you were I think you had spoken about triangle.
Yeah, we had a fleet of triangle craft for about 3 hours that we were filming one night. That's what got me started trying to film. And actually, Rose, why don't we shift gear to some of the weird things, and we can put those up. Rose brought a little footage that shows some of the, I guess, what most people would call a UFO. I don't accept if you want to talk about aliens, you need some extraordinary evidence to make extraordinary claims like that. And in my view, all the more, this is the first lunar wave. Look at the bottom. There's the wave. Oh, hold on. The wave comes in at the bottom. There it is. The camera goes above it. The wave catches up to the camera, which proves it's a filmed event and not equipment. And then the second wave will come from the bottom. This is the 2012 capture, probably the best we know of. And this is what just blew up the internet when I posted it a year later in 2013.
What causes it to do that?
I can guess at this too. Maybe it's a firmament wave. But they come in pairs. They come from conceivably almost any direction. There's 2 waves there that's just looping. I shot 5 of them in the film Shoot the Moon. There's 7. Randy from Houston. This is Randy from Houston's film. There's 1 wave. There's a large lapse of time between. It's almost 45 seconds between the waves and Randy's capture here. This is the chem bomb. One day my wife said, hey man, we haven't had chemtrails for 3 days. 2 planes flew by and there's an orb. So I start filming this orb thinking it was actually an orb, but keep your eye on it. It was not an orb. That was dropped out of a plane, out of a chem plane. And I think that's tracking material, but the amount of debris that came out of that thing and rained down on mile after mile of houses, the video doesn't do it justice.
Yeah, I'd imagine it wouldn't. What? So that's like they shot it out and it didn't.
I think that it fell the whole time
immediately.
So there's a little orb. This is actually what I call an orb dropping into the chemtrail. It's in the center of the screen. Now it's going, the chemtrail is going with the wind to the left. And this guy starts going to there. Keep your eye locked on him. He's going to shoot 2 plasma beams right about here. It's kind of hard to see, but watch. Keep your eye drilled on him right about here. See that? He shot a plasma beam into a chemtrail. What's that about? That's about the most vexing thing you can imagine. We used to see these things only around chemtrails all the time with our naked eyes. When I posted this footage, we never saw them with our naked eyes ever again.
Dude, that makes me think like they shoot something into it to make it react or something, and then it turns into...
sun, dude. So that was the sun we see. That's lens flare. Watch the top of the frame. That's the sun we see with our eyes, and that's lens flare. That, see up there? So I found that. I'm like, what the hell is that? There's the so-called second sun, the first capture.
Yeah, I've never seen any of these videos.
That's because they're on YouTube, and YouTube censors me. It's all on CRROW777radio.com in one form or another, where it can't be censored. But this is the 2014 or 15 capture, and I've been chasing it ever since. Other people have replicated the SLU Observatory. There's my 130 millimeter hydrogen alpha solar telescope. This is what it looks like before I add color, which is the only fake thing in these images, just the color. I put the color there. I could make it purple, but all the rest of it is what you see with your eye in the hydrogen alpha wavelength. These are some of the still prints that people wanted me to make, and those are available at CRROW777radio.com. Also, when you become a member there, you get free solar image just for joining. There's a sunspot that Rose loves.
Yeah, I definitely love that too. It doesn't even look like, it looks like it's something organic on like the earth or something, like a wheat field or something. Yeah. I don't know. It looks
looks like tissue to me. Like when you see these surface shot, it looks like human tissue. Dude, the sun, in my view, is conscious. It is not dead matter. It is conscious, and it provides everything we need for life, as well as the energies that drive us cyclically through era after era.
It's the macro to the micro, dude.
There it is, as above.
First time I had Nick from the Occult Rejects on, first thing one of the things we got into, which he said, we are solar powered biological AI, and I go, wait, what? And you know, now I get it. You know, it's so funny that we're talking about this, man. Me and my wife and I. We're talking about something very similar to this earlier. We were listening to this one guy talking about the epochs of humanity and 100,000 years ago, and how the sun also evolved. how it used to have kind of a more
Yellowish.
Yeah.
Now it's pale.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And it's
And
like
now
just
when you
how
go
we
out,
evolved in
it
some
feels
way.
more direct on your skin now, but you don't burn as quickly.
Yeah. He was saying something along the lines of that, and yeah, man, it's just funny how these she had no idea that you were even coming on today until later in the day. So, but yeah, and the whole thing with the micro macro, that's when you're able to see everything, like a certain cell in our body and like a leaf in nature, right? Or like certain like divine symbols in nature. And I mean, I think it's the same with these planets, and they align the energy that we
Right, and they lens in. It's like when you take a prism and you put it up to white light, all the light of the sun, it breaks it out into what's typically described as 7 colors. Well, those energies from those planets are doing a similar thing. I kind of view the sun as a lens for energies. Not only does it provide what we need to live and grow and breathe and eat and all the things we need, heat, it's lensing these energies from the sky clock into us, which is cyclical, not linear, as you were taught in school. In the same way, I know summer's coming again, that is cyclical. And in the era we are going into, that is cyclical, which is how the powers that be knew it was coming. How is it that we don't know the exact date down to the minute of when the age change actually happens? Because it's been obscured like everything else. They've done all they can to mess with things to the point where we covered, one of the people that talked about it was Steiner. He said the alchemists back in the day swapped the names of Venus and Mercury because they were afraid of the power someone would have if they could time the sky clock energies down to the second. So they literally swapped the names of the planets to get people off that ability.
And I mean, Mercury has so much power in the esoteric symbolism world, right? As you have Hermes, you have all the signs that come through.
Thought,
so yeah. And so and then you have Tacitus that says, the Germanics worship Mercury. He would equate that to Woden, right? So it's like it's a very ancient, powerful energy.
Well, the Buddhist communities like Tibet, that's all modeled on mind sciences and meditation. That's Mercury. We can see vestiges of Venus in the Middle East and Islam. We can see there used to be a time when we viewed the world holistically, like in Rome. Why do they have a temple to Jupiter and Mercury and Mars? That's a holistic view. But over time, all those went away. Now it's the sun, only the sun. We've been fractioned down to one aspect of a holistic system.
Has that been done on purpose?
Of course. It's what the church, the Vatican was at the center of all that. Literally we covered this, literally one day in the Vatican, the old pagan religion down in a cave under the Vatican brought the same altar and hat the Pope wears up to the top, and it was illegal to do anything but the sun. It was Mithraism. And they flipped the switch. Is there anyone out there, and I understand people are Catholic. My friend Michael Hoffman is Catholic and loves the Catholic faith. He hates what the Catholic Church did to the Catholic faith. Just to be clear about what I'm talking about. But does anyone here think that place is here to further our spiritual endeavors? There's enough wealth in their front parlor to feed the world. So what are they about there? Are they about taking care of humanity, feeding the poor, or are they about something else?
Harvesting all that energy, right?
We think they're behind the birth certificate scam, where human beings are registered and then traded as chattel.
Yeah, we literally, we have social security numbers.
There it is, the New Deal. The fallen New Deal, and they're coming along with another New Deal right about now. The difference should be is that our grandparents didn't know any better because they were so proud of what America was. And when they came out of World War II, they were told, you saved the whole world from goose stepping. and Nazi salutes. That's what they were told. They were as proud as they could be of what they had accomplished. They had no reason to suspect the leaders should have been more carefully looked at. But we are not in that position. This is the heart of the Scorpion, a star called Antares. I'm going to take it out of focus here so that you can see the cymatic patterns.
Oh,
the scope that I used
cymatics.
Was a Schmidt Cassegrain. So there's going to be like a donut hole in the middle because of how the optics work on the scope. But this is living energy or conscious energy. Here it is. Here comes the clip. I saw her load it. So this is Antares out of focus. You can see all the cymatic patterns and colors. I'm going to bring it down to focus, and then I'm going to pull it out of focus again so you know actually what a star looks like. Many people take a star out of focus and then tell you that's what a star looks like. But you've also got to realize, because of the shape of your eye and the mirrors and optics in a telescope, that has an effect on how you see things.
Right. Yeah, dude, I'm a huge fan of Hans Jenning.
Yeah, he wrote the book, the
yeah.
I wish that book had gone further. I had a guest on called Mandara Cromwell, who's an expert in cymatics. And actually, the next blog that I write is going to be all about cymatics and vibration.
Dude, you got to send that to me, because I'm fast. That's one of, when you hear of these Aboriginal stories and of these native tribes talking about their creation stories, how the earth was created in a certain amount of hums or songs.
Like the first verse of the book of John, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God.
Wow. Yeah.
When you see a cymatic, you could go on you can go on YouTube and look up cymatics, and you'll see people throw sand on a vibrating disc, and it'll make geometry. What you may not have realized is you just watched how form is created.
Dude, the landscape, it looks like a landscape. It looks like you're watching like a fast-paced kind of claymation version of some valley and mountains being made and fall down and then rebuild. And
what that is how matter is created. Vibration creates matter.
It's almost breathtaking in a way, CRROW. Not going to lie.
Well, we weren't taught about it, and now we're starting to come around, which we should begin to realize if frequency and vibration is so important, what are all these networks around us about? They're not helping us. They make it easy to communicate, but they are not helping us. These are so-called UFOs around chemtrails. You'll see this one buzz into frame and then speed away.
So were you one of the first guys that started calling out the chemtrail stuff?
Yeah, no one would believe. I filmed and I predicted days accurately. I showed, like, here they're doing a chemical mix. The top one almost looks like chromosomes or something mixed in.
Yep.
But back then, almost no one would believe it. And then they started censoring anyone who did any of this.
Look, there's like a DNA strand on the side.
That's right. Those are not the same, those two things being sprayed. This is M42, the Orion Nebula, which has shown up in a lot of church altars encoded in there. I shot that and processed it. You can see that with your naked eye, but you don't see it in color.
Look, I had an experience the other night where I basically came back into consciousness for like 5 to 10 seconds before coming back into my body. And what you were just showing, what Rose was just showing, is what I saw.
You saw the Orion Nebula?
I saw just purple, bluish hue with stars, and I just felt like complete bliss. And then all of a sudden, I was back in my body, and my ceiling was turning back into my ceiling. It was like a light, almost, and it was like forming back, almost vibrating back into my ceiling. And as like I'm waking up, I'm seeing this, dude. It blew me away. I talked about it the other night, but I'm still kind of in disbelief about it.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is the vortex, by the way. This was shot with a full spectrum camera. I had a normal visual spectrum camera that didn't see it. So the only reason we can see this vortex forming is because it was shot in full spectrum right next to the moon. It almost looks like something came through a portal and zoomed away or something. I run a bunch of filters trying to get a better view of it. But that's the moon. And then right here, just quick as can be, this vortex pops up. My wife was at the camera that night and luckily saw this happen. Saved the clip. Crazy. How do you explain that?
That looks very similar to what my wife saw. Oh my God, dude. I don't even know if I have the videos on here. I'll send them to you and Rose so y'all can watch them later. People have seen them on my stream several times. Guys, if y'all remember, over a year ago, my wife saw the same kind of spiral orange orbs from a far distance. She thought they were Chinese lanterns, but they weren't moving.
Oh wow.
And she has caught them twice on, or maybe even 3 times on video. Once over by her mom's house, but it was so far away it seemed, but they were like getting brighter and bigger, and it was and then once here, she followed it around our neighborhood basically, and then it disappeared. But she's had a few experiences like that. My wife is she's very clairvoyant, I guess you could say.
There is a consciousness shift actively happening, particularly for sensitive people.
I've witnessed her do things, you know, that I've talked about on my show before, but you know, we, like I said, we both consider ourselves mystics. So it's something that's not, you know, discussed a lot. You know, I'm also part of the occult rejects. So we get into a lot of topics on this show. So that's one of the crafts that you caught.
That's called the boomerang. That was one of the earliest kind of unusual things that I shot. This was back before I had realized satellites don't exist and that space, I don't think it's right to say space is fake. I think it's right to say that what we've been told space is fake. In 2016, I finally announced that maybe what we call space would better be described as some sort of a liquid or ether kind of idea. But what I did is I realized I couldn't get any more evidence with my optical tools. So I decided if I could find a text that went out to the whole world that talked about space being liquid, I would make that announcement. So I went to the JFK speech, "We're going to the moon." It's all nautical language. "We set sail on this new ocean." It's like, come on. You know, how is it that we've been listening to this since the 60s and we're not recognizing that it is all nautical language? So maybe, and I can't know until I get my magical Wonder Woman plane and fly up there and look, maybe space is better described as liquid or maybe even ether, like the old cultures called it.
Well, we also have etheric bodies that are, you know, I mean, we're made up of 70% water for a reason,
There
right?
You go. Yep. You come through a birth canal, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And so when I had the short amount of time I had my experience, I was like floating, you know, I don't know if it was just my etheric body floating or if I was floating in some etheric substance in my etheric body. Because when you look into the, you know, kind of your mental body, you have your astral body, your etheric body, and your physical body. It's like the 4 selves or whatever. I don't know, and it definitely correlates with the elements, right?
You do you've had out of body experiences. Do you do this regularly?
No, not since I was a little younger, man. But when I used to like, you know, experiment with psychedelics and this and that, like I wasn't in the right state of mind to be doing it. So I'd have these experiences, but they would just be kind of insane and I would get nothing from it, you know? So I since I've become more spiritual, you know, and following my path, man, I have more and more kind of, you know, divine experiences, what I call divine, what I call, you could say supernatural even, especially with nature, dude. Wow.
So it's cool that Rose is able to bring some of this footage for folks to see. A lot of this stuff, well, what YouTube hasn't deleted is way back buried. You know how YouTube works. If it's old, nobody knows it's there almost. But it's buried there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have CRROW777radio.com, and I put things out in a different way there. They don't get censored. And also there's a community there with forums and comments, and there's a big difference on my site. There's one rule: be polite. So if you want to speak there, it's not like the cesspool of social media. People respect each other because they know they better follow the one rule or they'll get shown the door, and they do. Everyone is in it together, and it's kind of a breath of fresh air to be able to go into a forum or a comment section and be able to speak without trolls and sewer slop.
Yeah, and that's something else that what you would say, like the online conspiracy community, I see is like kind of becoming, dude. These people trying to like compete with each other and like see who could, I would say, see who could spread the most fear porn. But you know,
well, you know, there's
get the most views, right?
Right. There's recent estimates that are even a little old now that claim anytime you're in any social media platform, 60% of the traffic, even if you think you know who it is a bot. And that was before, that estimate was before the open unleashing of AI in everything. So, you know, what's going on there? It's just one big staged illusion. You know, if you really kind of take apart what's going on, you don't even know if you're talking to people. You've been in those posts where people are talking along and all of a sudden someone shows up and just starts stirring the pot, right? Well, what's that about? You know?
Yeah. Yeah, it happens more than you would know, man, especially, you know.
Not on my server.
Well, hey, I got to give it up for you, man, because I've tried to, you know, it's kind of like that on my Patreon. But especially when it comes to YouTube, sometimes I used to not stream a lot to my YouTube. My first like year and a year and a half, I streamed more. I built my Rumble audience up and tried to. I worked with everyone that I had wanted to have conversations with. Now you, Esoteric Eddie, you know, a lot of cool guys, and so, but it seems like the closer you're kind of getting on your own spiritual journey to what you would consider to be more of the truth, people, you're kind of bombarded more, you know, with dissidents and these like random people that will show up and like spurg out and spam your chat. And
it's like whack-a-mole, right? You know, it's kind of like whack-a-mole. You know, years ago, I started telling folks, don't put all your eggs in the third-party basket, because what I noticed was there were places that had no intention of censoring. But what happened is the power that be called them up and said, so you don't want to censor, huh? How do you like getting on the internet? Because we control that access. So really, even if you have a corporation where people want to be decent, they don't have a lot of options, because the freeway is the internet. And guess what? The freeway is controlled, as it always is. And so I launched my private server. The only problem is it's, you know, it's not an easy thing to do, and it's not a cheap thing to do, but it is a freedom-based thing to do. If I put something there, I know that it won't be censored. And not only that, we've done things like all the episodes. We're publishing 680 something episodes right now. We're on our 680 something episode of the podcast. Rose creates transcripts for all those. So we've also created another way to back up what's been covered and what's happened in those transcripts.
Shout out.
Some people have come and, you know, bought every transcript in a bulk order. Like the bear community got a whole bulk order of all my transcripts, which further helps to save what our communities have been talking about and doing. Because the truth is if the day comes, like that movie, I Think We're Alone Now, you know, all that information on all those third-party servers, could it go away overnight at some point?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, dude.
Never know.
Or at least like the management's transferred, right? Someone else owns it the next day.
Yeah, we see a lot of that too, don't we? Every time we see a merger these days, we're seeing the one world order getting bigger.
Yeah, and people are so just you know, undisturbed by it now. They're just kind of like, oh, whatever, you know. Yeah, the Illuminati, woo, because we have been programmed, you know, through culture and the media and like, just to accept this stuff and like, yeah, there's nothing we can do about it. Right. And so, yeah, one big part of the gray pill is knowing that, you can save yourself and you can wake up from the hell that you've been programmed into. Right.
Yeah.
And and you don't have to follow some other like institution to do it. Right. You can be your own initiate. That's what I like to say. I also like to say, you take back your symbols, right? Take back your symbolism and, our culture, our history, right?
If you logically look at the whole thing, maybe it helps for people to realize that they can make a difference. Because if you look at your life, what do you have absolute control over? Well, I'm married, but you want to know something? I can't force my wife to be the way I want her to be. I can maybe influence her. If I have children, maybe I can get them to do a little more of what I want. But for the most part, I have control of me. And once I recognize that that's true, then you recognize that if there's going to be change, where does it start? Well, it starts with what you have control of, and you have control of you.
Yeah, man. Very well said. And so Rose is your significant other?
Rose is Jason's significant other.
Okay. So, I haven't met Jason. So he's someone who does research with you, and
he's my co-host.
Oh, cool, man. Okay, awesome. Yeah, I've heard another guy whenever I've actually listened to you. So I just didn't. I guess I should have known who that was.
Yeah, he's down in Louisiana, awesome, not far from you.
Yeah, you did say that. Okay, well, that's awesome. He has his girl helping out. I wish my wife had time to help out more with mine. She's tried to at some time. She actually made a lot of my early art for me when I didn't know what the hell I was doing. So yeah,
there's Rose.
Yeah, you're awesome, Rose. Thank you for being here. Yeah, what you were saying earlier though about the Mithras cult, that's something very interesting that I got into lately. Looking up into, I guess, Sabazius, the Thracian Phrygian sky god, and his tie into all that symbolism with Mithras slaying the bull was like slaying the old bull Sabazius.
And the era of the bull, right? So
yes.
Long ago, you're looking at the age of Taurus.
Yes, dude. Yeah, man. And I love learning stuff like that. I just did like this presentation on Sabazius and learning about the hand of Sabazius, and like it's in my profile picture. It's the blessed hand. And supposedly a hand that if you're in a supernatural situation, you have intention and prayer, or you have the will to, you could, a very powerful hand, right? Very powerful symbol. And that's when I go back saying like, take your symbols back. Right. I did want to ask you some questions though. And that is an episode that got, shadow banned on Spotify, is Hand of Sabazius Part 1. Guys, if y'all haven't checked that out, go check it out. Part 2 is on Patreon.
Anything that's censored is worth a look, right? There's a reason it was censored.
Yeah, man. Well, you get into like the stages of life with Zagreus and Dionysus, into Sabazius, and then how Mithras kind of came in, as well as the elite took the Phrygian cap, which represented freedom and liberty, and they basically branded it and turned it into their little thing that they put on their guys,
Well, in some ways, Mithraism was a similar thing. It was a double reverse. At first, it was the elite.
Too.
Yeah, the elite were the Mithras, and then slowly the underlings and the soldiers got in. But then the whole thing flipped, and like the knights took over, and the elite were pushed out. And that's one of the ways. Like Rome never went away; they just changed their uniform and moved into the Vatican. Did you know the doors on the original St. John's Cathedral are the doors from the ancient Roman Senate in the Vatican?
I could have guessed because I know a lot of ancient pagan temples were built on top of a whole lot of these churches were built over them.
They just changed their little costumes and made it look like Rome died, but Rome never died. And to this day, all roads still lead to Rome.
Absolutely, man. So there's a couple questions because I do want to respect your time.
Okay.
there's a couple questions I wanted to ask you. So if there were some conspiracies that you could come in and kind of debunk, and what would a couple be?
That's a pretty open-ended question. Can you be more specific?
You're not the first person to say that. Yeah, you're right. What is a conspiracy that you know to be like obviously false that you see being pushed? Like,
well, there are lots of people looking at the old world, and a lot of it gets Tartaria.
what do you think about Tartaria?
Well, we know for a fact through Jason, because we know people, that there are paid shills helping drive the narrative there, literally getting big checks each month. But you've got to realize that one of the early rules I made as I got into this, and I got my balance, because I never intended to be fake internet famous. But when it happens, and in the way it happened for me with the lunar wave, the whole world exploded in my face. I had to change my phone number. I had to become CRROW. That's how bad it was at that time. And even though I've always protected my data, I've never opened up a third party, social media account with my birth name. I was the first class of internet technology trained people. They called it internet tech when it first came out. And I kind of started to recognize where this was going, which is why I didn't post the lunar wave for a year, because I didn't want to do social media. But my point here is that I learned early on, don't join groups like the Flat Earth. And even though I support them, they should challenge everything. They should, research and question. But I don't want to inherit whatever they think is true and be expected to hold the party line. But even worse, whenever a group like that forms, they're almost instantly infiltrated the moment they begin to matter. And like I just mentioned, people who are paid to go in and derail and put false narratives into what they're doing, that happens. Mm-hmm. So that is one of the big things that I put forward. Be your own man. You have free will. You have the God-given gift of the ability to be logical and consider things. Don't form a group, because when you do, a target is put on you the moment that group begins to matter.
Right. Well, I the thing with Grey Pill, it's always been, it's like kind of a one-man show, but I have kind of branched off and done shows with several other people. We had Elohim Etymology with my buddy Adrian West.
That's a bit different though, right? That's just a conversation. Right. That's not a formal, we are this group.
Right. But, I have a show I do every Saturday, Gods of the Morning Wood, which Tara, thank you for the $2 donation, said praise the Morning Wood and Grey Pill. Thank you, Tara. Or $3. Thank you, Tara. Thank you so much. Which is a show I do every Saturday morning. And it's where I've have all these guys who I kind of met through them watching my show, but they also started their own shows. And, a couple of them already had their own shows, but we all get together and, we all have the Gods of the Morning Wood that we do together. But we all have these different ideas, kind of. We all don't agree 100% on everything. So it's good that we can all get together and have these conversations, man.
Who agrees with everything and everybody? Nobody, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of the point.
Well, one more question before we get out of here. If you could go back in history, for any time period in the ancient past or whenever, and hang out with one person, who would it be and why?
Tycho Brahe.
Oh, whoa. Who's this?
He's the astronomer from antiquity that mattered. He came along right before the telescope was invented, and he recognized that astronomy had issues. And so what he did is he corrected all the way back to Ptolemy and the people. But here's the thing. His whipping boy, a mathematician he hired, his name was Kepler. Copernicus was in that vicinity. When Tycho Brahe was either killed or died, Kepler either stole or illegally acquired his data, which is still used to this day. It was that accurate without a telescope, and they spun the NASA description of space and magical math. Kepler and Copernicus. Tycho Brahe did the work, Kepler did not, and what he did for astronomy is immeasurable. He was also an alchemist, specifically spagyrics, and what he did was lost and covered. What we got was his whipping boy Kepler and Copernicus's false math-driven models. And what he did was what he observed.
I got to look into him a little more, man. Definitely.
And actually,
he's a Danish man too. So.
I don't use AI, but a guy that Rose and I met took an old 1600s Latin book talking about a lot of the work that Tycho did, never been in English, and he's translated it into English. So the time we're in now, we have the ability now to quit taking people's words, go back, get these old books far before the modern edit and the modern nonsense party lines that we get, and translate them out of Latin or Greek into English and be the first people to read what we have not been able to read in our own language and learn some damn things, because almost always older information is better than modern information, because the modern edit, the takeover of education, the destruction of our medical system, the monetary system, all happened in the early 1900s. By the time 1930 got here, the remedies that used to cure people and the universities that taught that were all gone to the Rockefellerization and allopathy, where we now do drugs and we don't heal much of anything. It was across the board. So you get back into the 1800s and before, a lot of that information is quite valuable. And a lot of it is elemental thinking, air, water, earth, quintessence, ether, philosophical systems of natural science, proven to not only allow you to think in a natural, truthful nature way, but to do things in a laboratory that are in step with what nature shows us is true, to include making plant-based remedies called spagyrics that actually heal you. My friend Fortune de Saint Germain healed me with such a remedy of a thing you're not supposed to be cured of, according to modern medicine.
Well, we'll have to talk about that some other time, man. Yeah, dude, I'm a big fan of Paracelsus, so I definitely get what you're saying. Yeah.
What did he say? Any doctor that uses cutting or fire to deal with cancer should lose his medical abilities, because the body heals itself, and there is a plant for every malady a human being will ever have to contend with.
Yeah, and that's what Hall says about the ancient mystic or the ancient initiate, is that they should be a philosopher, a scientist, an astrologer, a doctor, all these different things, a poet, so
you combine with medicine, if you combine the energies of the sky clock that we currently call astrology, which has a lot of baggage. What you need to realize is, if I had heroes, Tycho Brahe would come close to that. In his day, there was no difference between astronomy and astrology, and kings were seeking after him to get charts read for them to make, countrywide decisions, because they recognized where the energies were coming from, and they recognized that this man was changing everything. There was astronomy before Tycho Brahe and astronomy after Tycho Brahe, but unfortunately, like I said about groups, the astronomy group got taken over, and we got the shills, Kepler and Copernicus.
Many such cases, CRROW. Dude, this was an awesome episode, a banger, if I say so myself. Let people know where they can find you, what you have coming, and if there's any parting words of wisdom that you want to,
Okay, well, everything that I do that matters, even though we use social media as a billboard, it all points to CRROW777radio.com. That is CRROW777radio.com. If you come to be a member there, you're guaranteed to be in forums and comment sections where people are respectful of one another. There's Shoot the Moon. Go ahead, click on it. Play a second of that. This is a 2-hour film covering all my older work that has 10 awards. When Jason and I put this out, we thought that the independent film circuit would do nothing with it. Lo and behold, a couple months later, we started getting awards, and the human mind was receptive. That's me. Don't get many shots of me because I don't give up my biometric data.
Oh, you're good, dude. I love how inconspicuous you are, actually.
You're going to see me setting up the old American-made 8-inch telescope that filmed the first lunar wave right here. This is what I used to do every night for up to 8-9 hours after I quit working for corporations. Started living on rice. There she blows, Cupcake Island, Luna. Anyhow, if you become a member, you get free access to this, and this is family friendly. I don't curse. I don't do things. You can put your whole family in front of my podcast or any of the content I create. And
guys,
it's probably one of the cheapest podcasts to join because we haven't raised the price in forever. We barely get by paying our bills, but we do it because the time is now. What we do now matters. We need to come together. We need to prepare for a world that is based not on service to self, which is what we've known all our lives, but on service to others and closer alignment with truth, which exists and is proven by nature. There is no lie in nature.
I couldn't have said it better. Guys, thank you all for coming and hanging out with us tonight. It's good to see you, Gerald. Good to see you. Yes, he is. That's very.
Can I say a last word?
Yeah, of course.
So everyone in the chat, thank you so much. And I want you to know that the first hour of every podcast is free. You don't even got to log in. Just go to CRROW777radio.com. If you become a member, that's fantastic because what we do there is honest as we can be. And we're trying to play a role in the helpful transition into a new era and a helpful contribution to the demolition of this kind of era that's been eating us all alive. Having said that, just go to CRROW777radio.com and listen to some of the older free first hours. There's one that show you nuclear weapons do not exist as described. Dinosaurs don't exist as described. The red-blue mind virus, any number of things over almost 700 episodes. It's all first hour free to you. And I'd like to thank you all for coming. And Jules, thank you so much for having us on. Rose and I truly appreciate it.
Yeah, man. The pleasure was all mine. Guys, tomorrow night, me and the Occult Rejects are going on the Divulgence podcast with Jordan, talking about servitors, tulpomancy, the ritualism behind making them, and then like the mental, the mental aspect of it as well, thought forms and whatnot. So y'all come hang out with us tomorrow night. I think it's at 6 Central. And then go check out Gods of the Morning Wood. This morning we did part 2 of the Nag Hammadi and then part 2 of the Delphic Maxims. It was fun. We had a good time in Rat. And Stacks, thank you for the $10 donation. He said, tell Crow I said hi, keep crushing, Jules.
Word, Stacks, word.
Stacks is a good guy, man. He's a long time. Actually, he does Gods of the Morning Wood with us sometimes too. So
keep that wood jimmied, guys. This is the wrong era to be chucking your seed around. You might want to keep some of that for yourself.
There you go. Words of wisdom, man.
Let it be.
Guys, if you want to support the show, go over to Patreon, patreon.com/greypilledpodcast. Yeah, thank y'all. Wednesday night, we had Occult Cinema with Jonathan from Meta Mystics. It was awesome. We watched Donnie Darko. Go check that out if you're on Patreon and you haven't checked that out yet. Next one is with Zeralath and Greyhorn Pagans. We'll be watching The Crow. So that's Occult Cinema, just like Gods of the Morning Wood. They're both Patreon shows, but you get to see a little bit of it live. So, but yeah, go follow me on X at greypilledpod, Instagram greypilled_podcast, Rumble, YouTube. Be sure to be subscribed over there because Spotify is shadow banning me. So.
Oh yeah, we're on Rose opened up a Substack too, and the blog you're interested in, a vibration, that's free on CRROW777radio.com. It's also for members, but that'll be posted on probably Tuesday, and the whole thing is around cymatics and the importance of vibration.
Dude, I'll definitely be checking that out. Maybe
Rose will try to remember to send Jules a link.
Awesome. All right. Well, again, thanks everybody for coming and hanging out with us. Thank you again, Crow and Rose, for coming on Grey Pill this evening. I hope you guys had a good time. And until next time, guys, fear nothing, question everything, and stay Grey Pilled. We'll see y'all tomorrow.